Okay, let's dive into one of the most tempting and frankly dangerous ideas in all of literature. I mean, really think about it. What would you trade your soul for? It's a question that's right at the heart of this timeless and kind of treacherous story we call the Faustian bargain. You see this idea of selling your soul pop up everywhere, right? In movies and stories. But the most famous, the most powerful version, that comes from Goethe's Faust. And get this, it's a literary masterpiece that took him almost 60 years to write. So, let's break it down. What is a Faustian bargain, anyway? Well, the idea as we know it today was pretty much perfected by a real giant of literature. And you gotta understand, this isn't just some casual deal. We're talking about trading something eternal for something temporary. But, to really get the story, you have to get the man behind it. So let's meet him, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. This guy was, by literally any measure, a complete genius of his time. And I mean, he wasn't just a writer. No way. The man was a statesman, a scientist, philosopher, a true polymath. He was born into a wealthy family back in the 18th century Germany, which people have called it an age of geniuses for a reason. Think about who he was surrounded by. We're talking about giants like Kant, Mozart, and Beethoven. It was this incredible explosion of talent. But even in a crowd like that, Goethe, he stood out. There's this great little story that tells you everything you need to know about his character. So he and the composer, Beethoven, who was a total radical, by the way, they run into some nobility on the street. Their reactions couldn't be more different. Goethe, he bows, respecting the system, the old European order. But Beethoven, he just plows right on through them, basically, saying the individual spirit is more important. So Goethe takes this massive, complex understanding he has of people, of society, of everything, and he pours it all into his life's work, the play he spent 60 years perfecting, Faust. And the play starts big. I mean, really big. We're not on Earth, we're in heaven. And there's a bet going down between God and the demon Mephistopheles. And what are they betting on? Oh, just the soul of one brilliant guy, Dr. Faust. So here's the wager, plain and simple. God is on one side, betting that Faust is fundamentally good, that his nature is to strive, to try, and that'll save him in the end. But Mephistopheles, he just sees humanity as weak and corrupt, and he's absolutely sure he can drag Faust's soul down to hell. Meanwhile, back on Earth, our guy Faust is having a full-blown existential crisis. He's this brilliant scholar who feels like he's learned everything and, at the same time, absolutely nothing. All his book learning feels totally meaningless. So this is the perfect moment for Mephistopheles to slide in and make his offer, right? He says, I'll give you all the pleasure and power in the world. All I want in return is your soul. And that deal kicks off this incredible journey where Faust goes through these three huge transformations, from a frustrated dreamer to a passionate lover, and then finally to a seriously ambitious builder. Okay, so what's the big takeaway from this whole epic saga? Well, it kind of boils down to one single line, which is one of the most famous lines in all of German literature. And this line, it's actually God's own perspective in the play. And it's a pretty radical idea when you think about it. It says that the very act of trying, of pushing yourself to grow, well, that guarantees you're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up. You're going to wander into some dark places. So for Goethe, the key isn't perfection. It's the struggle itself. That's what makes us human. That's the real path to salvation. Not actually reaching the finish line, but the effort, the striving, the trying to get there. And this incredible idea, it's a huge reason why Goethe's legacy is so massive. It goes way beyond just a play on a stage. I mean, his influence was absolutely immense. He literally helped standardize the German language. He became a cornerstone of Germany's whole national and cultural identity. So, just how big is that legacy today? Well, you can kind of capture it with just one single number. And that number is about 160. Why 160? Because that's roughly how many Goethe institutes there are all over the world. These are Germany's official cultural centers. They're global ambassadors. And they're all named after him. That's how important he is. So, when you pull it all together, Goethe's masterpiece reminds us that this Faustian bargain, it isn't just some dusty 200-year-old story. It's a living question. In a world that's always dangling temptations for more fame, more wealth, more power, we have to ask ourselves, what's the price of our own ambition? It's a question we answer in small ways, every single day.
Okay, today we're tackling an absolute giant of literature, Goethe's Faust. Now, I know it's a massive epic poem, but when you strip it all down, it's really about one of the wildest, most high-stakes bets ever imagined. A man's soul, pitted against everything the devil himself can throw at him. And this line from Faust himself? It just gets right to the heart of the entire story. He's not just saying he's a little conflicted. No, he's describing a brutal, all-out civil war that's raging inside his own soul. So, you can really see his fundamental struggle laid out here. One part of him is just constantly being pulled down by these raw, earthly desires, pleasure, power, all the immediate stuff. But this other part of him is desperately trying to soar, reaching for some kind of ultimate truth, for real spiritual knowledge. He's a man who is completely torn between the gutter and the stars, and it's this exact battle that makes him the perfect target for the devil's proposition. I mean, can you imagine mastering every single field of human knowledge? We're talking philosophy, medicine, law, even theology, only to realize that it's all left you feeling completely, utterly empty? Well, that's Faust's despair. And it's right here at his absolute lowest point that the devil, Mephistopheles, decides to make his entrance. The offer Mephistopheles puts on the table is basically the ultimate fantasy. He says, "I'll be your personal guide, your servant. I will unlock every pleasure, every power, every single experience the world has to offer." But of course, a deal that sounds this good always comes with a price. And here it is, the catch. When Faust dies, the roles are completely reversed, and he's got to serve Mephistopheles for all of eternity. But Faust is so arrogant, he's so convinced that nothing on this planet could ever truly satisfy him, that he basically scoffs at the deal. He genuinely believes it's a bet that he just cannot lose.
Okay, so this is the fine print, and it is everything. The entire wager hinges on these exact words. See, Mephistopheles doesn't win if Faust just has a good time. The devil only wins if he can create a single moment of such perfect, beautiful bliss that Faust, the man who is never satisfied, actually begs for time to stop. The whole story rests on this one single condition.
So, the pact is sealed in blood, and now the game is officially on. Mephistopheles whisks Faust away on this grand tour of human existence, really just a series of elaborate tests, all designed to produce that one soul-winning moment of happiness. And this journey unfolds across an entire lifetime. First, Mephistopheles gives Faust his youth back so he can chase passionate love. Next, he throws him into the world of politics and classical beauty. And then finally, as an old man, Faust gets to wield this immense, world-changing power. Each stage is a new temptation, a whole new attempt to win the bet. But here's the dark side of this whole pursuit. This is not some victimless quest for happiness. Faust's search for fulfillment leaves a trail of absolute devastation. His affair with the innocent Gretchen, it completely ruins her and her family. His marriage to the mythical Helen of Troy ends in tragedy. Even his final, grand project is built on corruption and violence. And through all this pain, Faust himself is still profoundly unsatisfied. So now we find him at the very end of his life. He's over 100 years old, he's been blinded by care, and he's standing right on the brink of death. Mephistopheles still hasn't won his soul. It honestly seems like the devil has failed. But then, Faust has one last, incredibly powerful vision. And what he sees isn't some personal pleasure or a selfish gain. Nope. Instead, he envisions this utopia that was built by his efforts. He sees a society of millions of people, all living freely and productively on land that he reclaimed from the sea, a people who are constantly working to maintain their own freedom. And this is the ultimate irony, isn't it? Faust's moment of perfect happiness isn't found in anything he actually has or is experiencing himself. It comes from the anticipation of a perfect future for all of humanity, a future he knows full well he will never live to see.
And with that vision of a future he helped make possible, he finally says the words. He utters that fateful line.
And just like that, the clock stops. The contract is fulfilled.
Faust collapses, dead. After a century of work, a triumphant Mephistopheles moves in to claim his prize. The deal is done. The soul is his.
But just as the devils are gathering around to drag Faust's soul down to hell, the story delivers its most profound, most unexpected twist.
Out of nowhere, a host of angels descend. They start scattering these roses that literally burn the demons, and they distract Mephistopheles himself with this sudden, confusing lust. And in all the chaos, they grab Faust's soul and carry it up to heaven. Mephistopheles is cheated, but why? Faust spoke the words, he lost the bet, fair and square, right?
Well, the answer is just profound. Faust isn't saved because he was a good man. Let's be real, he clearly wasn't. He is saved because he never, ever stopped striving. That same relentless, restless ambition that led him to make the pact in the first place is, in the end, the very thing that redeems him.
The play ends on this very mystical note, introducing this idea of the eternal feminine. Now, the easiest way to think of it is as this force of divine grace and unconditional love. It's represented here by Gretchen's spirit, who is waiting to welcome Faust to heaven. It kind of suggests that while all that striving is essential, ultimate salvation doesn't just come from our effort, but from a higher mercy that pulls us upward.
And that, right there, is the monumental question Faust leaves us chewing on. What is the true purpose of life? Is it about finding some kind of quiet contentment? Or is the real value found in the endless, messy, and often destructive struggle for whatever's next? Faust seems to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the struggle itself is the whole point.